The envelope was taped to the bottom of Daddy's old fishing tackle box. I almost missed it. After 5 years, after losing everything, after believing my father had forgotten me completely, there it was, yellow with age, hidden on purpose. My hands were shaking so hard I could barely open it. Inside was a single document, a will, dated 2 weeks before Daddy died, and it said my brother Dennis had been lying to me for 5 years. Everything I'd lost, every tear I'd cried, every moment I'd spent wondering why my own father had abandoned me, it was all a lie, and my brother had stolen it all. My name is Carol. I'm 58 years old, and for 5 years, I believed my father died without leaving me a single thing. Daddy passed away in March 2019, lung cancer. He was 81 years old and still the strongest man I knew, right up until the end. Walter Raymond Mitchell, that was his name. He was a carpenter by trade, but he could fix anything. Leaky faucet, broken fence, shattered heart. Daddy always found a way. Growing up in Erie, Pennsylvania, I was his shadow. I'd hand him tools in the garage while he worked. I'd go fishing with him every Saturday morning at Presque Isle Bay. I was his girl. My brother Dennis was different. 4 years older, ambitious, always too busy for family stuff. Dennis moved to Pittsburgh after college, got a business degree, made good money, visited maybe twice a year, Thanksgiving if we were lucky, and a quick trip on Daddy's birthday. I stayed close. I married my husband Jim right out of high school. We bought a little house 3 streets away from Daddy. When Mama passed in 2015, I was there every day helping him adjust. I cooked his meals, I drove him to doctor's appointments, I held his hand through the chemo when it got bad. Dennis sent checks, nice checks, I'll admit, but checks aren't the same as showing up. The last week of Daddy's life, I barely left his bedside. I slept in the chair next to his hospital bed. I read him the fishing reports from the newspaper because he liked knowing what was biting. Dennis flew in the day before Daddy died. He stayed for 3 hours. 3 hours in a week. But when Daddy took his last breath, it was my hand he was holding, not Dennis's. I thought that meant something. I was wrong. 2 weeks after the funeral, Dennis called a family meeting. He sat at Daddy's kitchen table, the same table where I'd eaten breakfast for 18 years of my childhood, and he looked at me with what I thought was sympathy. "He's been through all of Dad's papers," he said. "There's no will." I stared at him. That can't be right. Daddy was organized. He planned everything. Dennis shook his head slowly, dismissively. "I looked everywhere, Carol. He never made one. You know how Dad was about lawyers. He probably just never got around to it." I wanted to argue, but Dennis was the successful one, the smart one, the one who handled money and legal things. What did I know? "So what happens now?" I asked. Dennis spread his hands on the table. "Without a will, Pennsylvania law says the estate gets split between surviving children. You and me, 50-50. That sounded fair. It sounded right. But that's not what happened. Over the next 6 months, Dennis took control of everything. He said he needed to manage the estate because I didn't understand finances. He said there were debts I didn't know about. He said the house needed repairs before it could be sold. Every time I asked questions, he had answers that sounded reasonable. The medical bills were enormous, Carol. I'm covering them. There were liens on the property. I had to pay them off. The estate is more complicated than you realize. Trust me. I trusted him. He was my brother. The house sold for $180,000. Dennis told me that after all the debts and fees, my share was $12,000. $12,000 for my father's entire life. I asked to see the paperwork. Dennis said he'd send it. He never did. When I pushed, he got annoyed. Do you think I'm cheating you? After everything I've done for this family, I'm the one who paid for Daddy's funeral. I'm the one who handled all of this while you sat around crying. I backed down. I felt guilty for even asking. The years passed. Dennis bought a vacation home in Florida. He got a new car every year. His wife Sheila started wearing jewelry that cost more than my annual salary. I worked double shifts at the hospital where I'd been a nurse's aide for 20 years. Jim and I refinanced our house twice just to keep up with bills. I told myself it was fine. Money didn't matter. I had my memories of Daddy. But late at night, when I couldn't sleep, I wondered, how did Dennis have so much when I had so little? I pushed the thought away. Dennis was my brother. He wouldn't lie to me. For 5 years, I believed that. In January 2024, Sheila filed for divorce. I heard about it through a cousin. Dennis hadn't spoken to me directly in over a year. We drifted apart after I asked too many questions about the estate. The divorce was nasty. Sheila wanted half of everything, including assets that Dennis had hidden from her. That's when I got a phone call that changed everything. Is this Carol Mitchell? Yes. This is Sheila, your brother's wife. Well, soon to be ex-wife. We need to talk. I met her at a diner in Pittsburgh. She looked tired, older. The expensive jewelry was gone. I'm not here because I like you, Sheila said, stirring her coffee. I'm here because I want Dennis to pay, and you deserve to know what he did. My stomach tightened. What are you talking about? She pulled out her phone and showed me a photo. It was a spreadsheet. Bank accounts, transfers, numbers I didn't understand at first. Then I saw it. A deposit for $340,000 in April 2019, 1 month after Daddy died. That's from your father's estate, Sheila said. Serious, Carol. There were no debts, no liens. Dennis liquidated everything. The house, the savings, the investments, and kept almost all of it. I couldn't breathe. My share was $12,000, I whispered. Sheila nodded. I know. Dennis told me you agreed to it. He said you didn't want the responsibility. She looked down at her coffee. I believed him. I shouldn't have. But he said there was no will. Tim. Sheila's eyes met mine. Carol, I don't know anything about a will, but I know Dennis lied about the money, and if he lied about that... She didn't finish the sentence. She didn't have to. Jim wanted me to let it go. It's been 5 years, Carol. What's done is done. But I couldn't let it go. Not anymore. I drove to Daddy's old neighborhood. The house had been sold, but I knew the family who bought it. The Hendersons, a young couple with 2 kids. I know this is strange, I said to Mrs. Henderson, but my father used to live here. He passed away 5 years ago. I was wondering, is there anything of his still in the house? Maybe in the attic or the basement? She thought for a moment. Actually, there's a bunch of old stuff in the garage we never cleared out. The previous owner, your brother, I think, said we could throw it away, but we just never got around to it. My heart was pounding. Can I look? The garage was dusty and cramped. Boxes of old Christmas decorations, broken furniture, things Dennis had decided weren't worth taking. And in the corner, covered with cobwebs, was Daddy's fishing tackle box. I hadn't seen it in 5 years. Daddy took that tackle box everywhere. He said it was lucky. I picked it up, and something rattled loose inside. I opened it, expecting old lures and rusty hooks. That's when I felt the envelope taped to the bottom of the lid. My hands were trembling as I peeled it off. Inside was a single document. handwritten, dated March 1st, 2019, 2 weeks before Daddy died. It was a holographic will, legal in Pennsylvania, witnessed by two neighbors whose signatures I recognized, and it said everything. I, Walter Raymond Mitchell, leave my house and all my savings to my daughter Carol, who has cared for me these past years with love and devotion. To my son Dennis, I leave my car and $10,000, which is more than he deserves for never being here. Daddy hadn't forgotten me. He'd remembered everything. And Dennis had hidden this for 5 years. I hired an attorney the next day. Her name was Ruth Goldman, and she specialized in estate fraud. "This is a valid holographic will," Ruth said, examining the document. "Handwritten, dated, signed, witnessed. Your brother suppressed it illegally. This is fraud. What can we do?" Ruth smiled. "We can do a lot." The lawsuit took 9 months. Dennis hired expensive lawyers. He claimed the will was fake. He claimed I'd forged it. He claimed Daddy wasn't mentally competent when he wrote it. None of it worked. The neighbors who witnessed the will testified that Daddy was sharp as a tack that day. They remembered him specifically saying he wanted to make sure Carol was taken care of. Ruth's investigator found that Dennis had intercepted mail from Daddy's attorney, the same attorney who had a copy of a formal will that matched the holographic one. Dennis had told the attorney the family had decided to handle things privately. He'd planned it. From the beginning, he'd planned to steal everything. The judge's ruling was devastating for Dennis. The court finds that Dennis Raymond Mitchell willfully suppressed his father's last will and testament, engaged in fraud, and unlawfully enriched himself at the expense of his sister, the judge declared. He was ordered to repay the full $340,000 plus interest, plus my legal fees, plus damages. Total, $487,000. Dennis didn't have it. He'd spent too much. The vacation house was sold. The cars were sold. His retirement accounts were garnished. His divorce from Sheila was finalized a month later. She got half of what was left. The district attorney also filed criminal charges: fraud, thefts by deception, suppression of a legal document. Dennis pleaded guilty to avoid trial. He got 2 years of probation and 500 hours of community service. It wasn't prison, but his reputation was destroyed. The story made the local news. His business partners dropped him. His friends disappeared. I didn't feel sorry for him. He called me once after it was all over. "Carol, please, I'm your brother. We can work this out. It was a mistake. I made a mistake." I listened to his voice, the same voice that had lied to me for 5 years, and I felt nothing. "Daddy gave you $10,000, I said quietly. "He said it was more than you deserved. He was right." I hung up and never answered again. I live in Daddy's house now. Well, not the original one. The Hendersons loved it too much to sell. But with the money I recovered, Jim and I bought a place just like it. Same style, same layout, same feeling of home. I put Daddy's tackle box in the garage, in the corner, right where it belongs. I go fishing at Presque Isle Bay sometimes, Saturday mornings, just like we used to. I bring a thermos of coffee and I talk to Daddy like he's still there. Sometimes I think he is. Dennis moved to Ohio after everything fell apart. I hear he's working as a sales clerk somewhere. No fancy house, no vacation home, no expensive cars. I don't wish him ill, I just don't think about him anymore. Last month, I was cleaning out some boxes from the old estate and found a photograph I'd never seen before. It was me and Daddy at Presque Isle, 1974. I was 8 years old, holding up a tiny bluegill like it was a trophy. Daddy was grinning like I'd caught a marlin. On the back, in his handwriting, "My Carol, my fishing buddy, my heart." He'd kept that photo for 50 years. I framed it. It sits on my mantel now, right next to his tackle box and the will that set everything right. For 5 years, I thought my father had forgotten me. I thought I didn't matter. I thought love could just disappear when someone dies. But I was wrong. Love doesn't disappear. It just waits. Sometimes it waits in tackle boxes and hidden envelopes and photographs you don't find until you're ready. Daddy never forgot me. And now, finally, I have proof.